Hello. So I've been doing a practice based on dion, dynamic neural retraining system um, created by Annie Hopper. And I'm not going to go into the details of explaining this system or anything. I just want to talk about two, um, two steps in a daily practice that I do. And one of them is to bring up positive memories and look at remember details about it, like what I was seeing, but kind of trying to like be there. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? Who's there? What am I smelling, tasting? What am I feeling? And the other step is pretty much thinking about it's a similar thing, but thinking about future events that may happen and looking at them in a similar way. And the idea of this is to bring up positive feelings to stimulate the limbic system into inducing certain hormones like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and, endorphins to encourage the brain to make these positive chemicals instead of stress chemicals. And I've been looking at this from a Buddhist perspective, of course, too, and really watching for attachment that can come up and not being here and now and such. And sometimes I've found accessing happy memories to be pretty challenging. I used to spend a lot of time involved in non-virtuous activities and rejoicing in non-virtuous activities, such as fishing and drinking. I might rejoice that I'm catching a fish or that my friend is catching a fish, and or just wasting time playing cards and going to parties or bar, crossword puzzles, Sudoku, which I loved. And I, of course, I don't use non-virtuous memories for this practice. That's why it's been hard to look into what memories would bring up happy things, happy feelings without, really. But even the things that weren't so non-virtuous, sometimes the memories fall flat. They don't really produce a happy feeling. And it makes me think a lot about what I used to value. And sometimes it makes me think, was I ever really happy? I mean, so I'm having a memory of being out hiking. I still like hiking, but it's really not the hiking that makes me happy or not. I can be out hiking and not be happy. It's the mind. So um, I also trying to avoid attachment, but I often would go to memories of my old dog and the time we spent together. We were together for 17 and a half years. And so that would bring up happy memories. And also thinking about my family and times I spent with family and friends. And really I'd go to connecting with people as one of the things that I could use for that. But then I have to really watch that with attachment very strongly. And also just remembering all these events like swimming, canoeing, hiking, skiing, camping, picnics, and just sometimes I can really, if I'm imagining that with some of my friends or with my parents when we were kids, it brings up happy memories. But mostly it's about the connection with the people more than the events. And then there's other times when I go to memories that are more involved with my current life, really. Remembering when I received the eight precepts and became an anagarika. I remember that, and I was very happy that day. I remember that a lot, so that's a good one. In fact, I can it's hard for me to get in touch with all the details of that, but I can get in touch with the feeling of that real quick. And also remembering going to Seattle with Venerable Tarpa and Dave and Janet and receiving the Shramanera precepts. That was, and I can break that up into a lot of little memories. So, because I try not to use the same one over and over, which is hard, because otherwise I'd be just going back to my dog all the time. But that's attachment there too. Also thinking of times from when I was in Taiwan and receiving the full ordination training and the bhikshu precepts and the bodhisattva vow. That brings up good memories. So that's nice because I can go to memories that are more virtuous and not so tainted with attachment. And I also, with the future events, sometimes I think a lot about maybe sometime when I get to travel and go back to see my family. And then there again, probably a family reunion picnic and seeing my sisters and my brothers and their spouses and my nephews and nieces and my uncle and all the little kids. Well, I think about maybe playing a little game with the little kids or something, and or just watching them play, and that helps to bring up happy feelings for me. And a lot of my nephew and niece's kids I don't know very well, so it's not like I'm attached to them. It just brings up a happy feeling for me to think about kids playing, and I guess that ties into memories of my own childhood and playing at picnics and such. But then I've been thinking also about more virtuous future events, like imagining the day when Venerable cuts the ribbon at the Buddha Hall. Yeah, and going in and having soak in the new hall. And for myself, just being able to think about being at sharing the Dharma Day with the full events and being able to be there. And also thinking about going to a future event of when there's going to be a bhikshu pasada in just maybe just a few years, who knows? No expectations. But all in all, it's been a good practice, not only because it has helped my health, but because I've had to look at these things and see, like, hey, there's a lot of potential for attachment here in this practice, and recognizing that. I think that's very good for me to recognize that. And I've been thinking a lot about attachment anyways lately. I facilitated a SAFE 1A course in the spring, and there was a lot of discussion about attachment towards the end of it. And people would ask, people would say things like, a couple people would say things like, yeah, I can see how attachment might be a bad thing, but it could be a good thing too. And I would just bring them back to the definition of what we're talking about here. We're not just this, because this word gets used in so many ways in this society. And yeah, it can mean a lot of things, but here's what we mean by it in this part that we just had read this week, and just bring that up. And it includes exaggeration. And in one of the teachings involved in that course, Venerable had talked about recognizing attachment very early when it first starts to come up, while it's still manageable. And so I've been doing a practice of really trying to recognize the exaggeration that it's based on. And of course, the four distortions are there, thinking that some kind of seeing things as permanent that are not permanent, or seeing things that are as pleasurable when they're in the nature of dukkha, or seeing things as pure and pleasant when they're actually not, when they're foul. or seeing things as having a self or an essence that they don't have. But another level of exaggeration that I've been looking at a lot is just my tendency to make a big deal out of something that's not. And that I find very helpful, just to say, this is not a big deal. And, you know, where the people are tired of hearing about the spatula, I'm sure, but where the spatula goes, not such a big deal, you know. You know, if you get your arm caught in the chain in the table saw, that's going to be a big deal, you know. But in 3 lifetimes from now, that's not a big deal because you won't even remember it, you know. So really looking at whatever comes up, whether big or small, and try not to make it a bigger deal than it is. Try not to add that second arrow, as we say. And that's been very helpful for me. And it's not just a matter of bringing up that antidote in the moment. It's a matter of trying to create a more easygoing attitude in myself. An attitude doesn't make a big deal out of things. If something needs discussed, discussing it without getting all heated up, you know, and just trying to be more easygoing about things and calm and avoiding drama, dramatic, looking at things in a real dramatic way. And I've also been thinking about how in every moment we choose whether to be happy, neutral, or unhappy. And depending on how much control we have on our mind, we have more choice, of course. And just making more of an effort to just choose to be happy in the situation, not get dramatic about something, get drug into a negative mental state, and not seeking happiness in an external object, but just realizing that's an internal state. And I'm thinking about that a lot because of those 2 steps I described in that program, just trying to bring up happy feelings, of just being with happiness is an internal, you know, it's an inside job. There's a sign on our tires that says happiness is an inside job. So where my mind's at right now, I can't always choose to be happy because I don't have that much control of my mind, but I can sure work towards that. And it just helps a lot to steer the mind towards being more easygoing about things that way.